Chen Chuchu showed Han Shuo a map of the city owner's mansion defenses, outlining her plan. She would enter first to make arrangements, and in half an hour, he would bring his forces for a coordinated attack. She confidently stated that she would soon regain control of Huayuan city guards. Han Shuo acknowledged her assistance, feeling empowered by her support. Moments later, Chen Qianqian arrived at Xingzi Mansion. Chen Qianqian directly confronted Chen Chuchu, accusing her of murdering Lu Peng. Chen Chuchu denied it, attempting to shift the blame to Lin Qi and then back to Chen Qianqian herself, but Chen Qianqian remained firm, pointing out that Lu Peng had witnessed Chen Chuchu's argument with their mother, giving her a strong motive. Chen Chuchu then retorted that confining Han Shuo for life was crueler than killing him, dismissing him as a mere plaything for Chen Qianqian, who now had Pei Heng. She even brought up rumors of constant revelry in Chen Qianqian's Yueli mansion since Han Shuo's exile. Chen Qianqian, disgusted, declared that Chen Chuchu was the reason their mother had fallen ill. Han Shuo, who had been hiding and listening, concluded that he held no importance to Chen Qianqian. After the heated exchange, Chen Qianqian ordered her own guards to reinforce Chen Chuchu's confinement, ensuring no one could enter or leave Xingzi Mansion. Following the confrontation, Chen Qianqian found herself in despair. She felt lost without a path home, lamenting the distorted storyline where the male lead was gone, the female lead had turned villainous, and supporting characters were sacrificed. She expressed frustration that despite her efforts to save Huayuan from Xuanhu's conquest, her own story had stalled. Later, outside her mansion, Pei Heng found a despondent Chen Qianqian drinking heavily. He urged her to stop, suggesting she could pardon Han Shuo and recall him if she truly missed him, rather than punishing herself. Chen Qianqian explained that Han Shuo could never return to Xuanhu or Huayuan, blaming herself for everything, and musing that if Lin Qi were still alive, there might have been a chance for her and Han Shuo to be together forever. Pei Heng offered to drink with her. Drunk, Chen Qianqian mistook Pei Heng for Han Shuo, tearfully apologizing for lying about not loving him and expressing her heartfelt wish to be with him always. Han Shuo, who had secretly followed her and was watching from a distance, overheard her words and silently echoed her wish. Meanwhile, the city owner, though awake, was still weak. She expressed concern over Chen Qianqian's continuous visits to the music and dance academy, attributing it to her being love-stricken, and openly questioned if Chen Chuchu be a more suitable heir. Despite Sang Qi's attempts to speak neutrally, the city owner decided to reconsider her decision, stating that Chen Qianqian had shown little concern for the city or its people since Han Shuo's departure. She decided to lift Chen Chuchu's confinement, hoping she had matured. However, a guard then reported that the city was besieged and the city owner's mansion was under attack. The city owner quickly asked if Chen Qianqian had confiscated Chen Chuchu's flower token while she was in a coma. When Sang Qi confirmed that Chen Qianqian, considering their sisterly bond, had only confined Chen Chuchu and not taken the token, the city owner became furious and spat blood. Back in Yueli Mansion, Chen Qianqian woke up from her drunken stupor, startled to find Han Shuo standing before her. She had just finished reading a letter from Meng Guo that vaguely described losing track of Han Shuo, making his sudden appearance even more shocking. She tried to feign sleep, expressing a desire to sleep until the end of the play. When she attempted to explain that her past actions were for his own good, even she admitted it was unbelievable. A guard then loudly reported that Han Shuo had besieged the city owner's mansion, leading Chen Qianqian to realize he had taken over the city. Han Shuo recounted his painful exile, stating he would have forgiven her for any sadness, but all he saw was her acting happy. Chen Qianqian insisted she was truly sad and had been feigning happiness. Han Shuo then presented her with a gift, 10 bottles, one containing a potent poison called soul missing powder. He forced her to choose one to drink daily, threatening her mother's life if she refused. Hoping to die and return to her own world, Chen Qianqian chose a bottle, but it turned out to be bitter melon juice. Han Shuo then ordered Bai Ji to confine her to Yueli Mansion. Chen Qianqian lamented that despite her efforts to prevent Xuanhu from conquering Huayuan, the situation had unfolded regardless, leaving her questioning the purpose of her struggles. Amidst the chaos, the city gates were shut, trapping everyone inside. Su Mu, who had been attempting to leave Huayuan City, found himself caught in the lockdown. Upon hearing that Risheng Mansion was surrounded by Xuanhu city soldiers, he immediately rushed back to find the eldest princess. He found her in her ruined home, seemingly preparing a will. He saved her from falling debris, sustaining an injury in the process. The eldest princess initially pushed him away, reminding him of his earlier confession that he did not love her. Su Mu, however, declared his changed heart, expressing that his feelings for her were real, especially in such a dire situation, and swore to stay with her until death. The eldest princess worried about implicating him further, but acknowledged that they were now like a couple on the run. They shared a quiet moment over a preserved drawing bearing the words, "To win someone's heart." Meanwhile, Chen Chuchu, feigning filial concern, reported to her mother, falsely claiming that Han Shuo had viciously attacked Huayuan City after being humiliated by Chen Qianqian. She reassured her mother that she had secured the mansion, earning the city owner's praise. In the council hall, Ziju, acting under Chen Chuchu's instruction, read a decree stating the city owner was unwell and had appointed Chen Chuchu to act in the city owner's stead. When an official protested, arguing the crown princess should be the one to fill in, Chen Chuchu immediately ordered her to be taken away. She then silenced other dissenting officials and had them removed. Soon after, Pei Heng burst into Chen Chuchu's mansion, urging her to repent. He questioned why Han Shuo had returned and whose guards had truly besieged the city owner's mansion, implying her complicity. Chen Chuchu, unmoved, dismissed his concerns, stating that her desire to obtain what was rightfully hers was merely a matter of time. She disrespectfully implied that her only reason for acknowledging him was out of respect for his late father. Nearby, one of her aides commented on Han Shuo's apparent unease when seeing Pei Heng, suggesting Han Shuo still harbored feelings for Chen Qianqian, and noting that Pei Heng's actions would only further infuriate him. Despite warnings from his guard about the futility of his actions, Pei Heng decided to confront Han Shuo at Yueli Mansion to rescue Chen Qianqian. He accused Han Shuo of hurting Chen Qianqian and of being unworthy of her affection, reminding him that they were divorced and he intended to take her away. Han Shuo, enraged, brutally attacked Pei Heng, asserting that Huayuan City's rules of divorce held no sway, and that only Xuanhu City's rules mattered. He declared Chen Qianqian his wife, and that she would stay with me forever. Pei Heng collapsed, coughing blood. Chen Qianqian rushed out to his side, asking if he was all right. Han Shuo, consumed by jealousy, roughly grabbed Chen Qianqian and carried her back into the room, ignoring her struggles and Pei Heng's pleas. Inside the room, Han Shuo confronted Chen Qianqian, accusing her and Pei Heng of mutual affection. As he attempted to force intimacy, Chen Qianqian screamed for help and slapped him. Disturbed by her cries and obvious terror, Han Shuo stopped, calling her a spoilsport. He then confirmed that she truly had lost her martial arts skills, realizing she rarely spoke the truth, and began to question his own harsh actions. Still outside in the rain, Pei Heng continued to call Han Shuo a beast and begged him to release Chen Qianqian. Han Shuo emerged to tell Pei Heng to give up, warning him against any further attempts to steal my wife, then ordered his men to escort Pei Heng home. As he was being led away, Pei Heng vowed he would not give up on Chen Qianqian. Bai Ji tried to prod Han Shuo, commenting on how quickly his anger softened for Chen Qianqian, and offered to help. Han Shuo angrily dismissed him, then, distrusting Chen Chuchu, ordered Bai Ji to replace all existing guards with their own Xuanhu soldiers, following the city defense map. Zirui, finding Chen Qianqian still distressed, suggested she give in to Han Shuo to end the siege, portraying it as a mutually beneficial outcome. He warned that if she continued to resist and infuriate Han Shuo, Chen Chuchu might become the city owner, leaving them unprotected. Chen Qianqian expressed concern about Han Shuo, calling him an eye-for-an-eye demon. Zirui then confirmed that Chen Chuchu was indeed expected to become city owner, citing an official decree read in the council hall. Chen Qianqian realized that the plot was getting back to the plot, indicating a path home for her, but worried about Han Shuo's fate, as the original storyline dictated his death shortly after Chen Chuchu ascended to power. Determined, she resolved not to let Chen Chuchu become city owner. Later, Bai Ji brought Chen Qianqian 5 bottles, telling her Han Shuo found it funnier to reduce the number of choices from the previous day's 10. Frustrated, Chen Qianqian called Han Shuo an obstacle on my way home, and decided to counterattack. She dramatically mixed all 5 bottles, which contained an assortment of mundane liquids like soy sauce, vinegar, and onion juice, and drank the concoction, then began to fake excruciating stomach pain, loudly calling for the eldest princess. Han Shuo, seeing through her ruse, mocked her, stating that he drank the same concoction without issue. He refused her pleas to see the eldest princess or her mother, correctly deducing her intention to use the pretense to escape. He coldly told her to endure the pain if she didn't want a doctor, then left, instructing her to stay here and don't think about escaping. Chen Qianqian, still feigning pain, lamented how Han Shuo treated her despite her missing him while he was away. At that moment, Bai Ji announced that a group of musicians had arrived, claiming Chen Qianqian used to invite them every few days, and they missed her. Han Shuo, further angered by this apparent confirmation of her indifference, sarcastically allowed them in to entertain her, implying she sought to escape to see them. Among the musicians was a disguised Pei Heng, who revealed he had come to rescue her. Recognizing the opportunity, Zirui quickly and loudly ordered Bai Ji to prepare a ridiculously long list of elaborate dishes for Chen Qianqian, effectively distracting Bai Ji and sending him scurrying off to the kitchens. Chen Qianqian thanked Pei Heng for his disguise. Pei Heng, in turn, confessed that while he once considered it shameful to please women, he now found it fulfilling to help and bring joy to the woman he loved. Chen Qianqian, despite the urgency, asked if Han Shuo had troubled him again, then defended Han Shuo, claiming she was to blame for pushing him to this point. Before she could elaborate, a butler interrupted them. Chen Qianqian and Pei Heng found temporary refuge at Butler Lin's residence. Butler Lin, still grateful to Chen Qianqian for saving Lin Qi's life, housed them. Suddenly, a mysterious brocade box arrived at the mansion. Inside, they found Lin Qi's golden token and a brief handwritten note that read, "This letter represents me. I am doing fine." Butler Lin was overjoyed to learn that his lady was alive. This revelation deeply impacted Chen Qianqian. She reflected on her decision to drive Han Shuo away, which she had made because she believed she had lost control of the story, fearing Han Shuo would follow the tragic plot she had originally written. However, with her mother's recovery from a stroke, proof that Chen Chuchu was responsible for Lu Peng's death, and now Lin Qi's survival, Chen Qianqian realized she could indeed alter the character's destinies. Her prior actions against Han Shuo now seemed unnecessary. Seeing her lost in thought, Pei Heng asked what was wrong. Chen Qianqian, determined to clarify the misunderstanding, announced her decision to return to Yueli Mansion. Despite Pei Heng's fervent warnings that she was walking into a trap, Chen Qianqian remained resolute. She sought a discreet way to re-enter the mansion from Butler Lin, apologized to Pei Heng, and departed. Meanwhile, at the city owner's mansion, Han Shuo demanded the city owner's seal. The city owner, aware of Han Shuo's affection for Chen Qianqian, refused to yield, subtly reminding him to be wary of Chen Chuchu. Han Shuo, understanding her veiled threat, asserted that as city owner, the seal was more important than her life. When Han Shuo threatened to harm her, the city owner cleverly countered by invoking Qin Qianqian, suggesting that her death would cause Qin Qianqian immense grief and turn her against Han Shuo. Realizing he was outmaneuvered and could not risk alienating Qin Qianqian, Han Shuo recognized he was compelled not only to spare, but also to protect the city owner. He then instructed his Xuanhu city soldiers to guard the city owner's bedroom strictly, prohibiting entry or exit. Qin Qianqian, having returned to Yueli Mansion disguised among musicians, was caught off guard by Han Shuo's unexpected return. She frantically tried to instruct the musicians to pretend they had forced her to leave, while she had steadfastly refused, professing her loyalty to Han Shuo. But Han Shuo had already seen her in the musician's attire. He confronted her, accusing her of attempting to escape with Pei Hung again, calling it the same trick. A musician, under duress, confessed that Pei Hung had instructed them. Enraged, Han Shuo ordered Bai Ji to escort the musicians away. Qin Qianqian tried desperately to explain, but Han Shuo, seething with anger, refused to listen. He accused her of exploiting his unwavering devotion and abandoning their love for political gain. He declared he would no longer show her mercy, threatening to consummate their marriage to ensure she could not escape. Qin Qianqian, in a desperate attempt to prove her sincerity, tore up the divorce letter and lay on the bed, inviting him to proceed. Han Shuo, however, misinterpreted her actions as a shameless sacrifice to save Pei Hung or her mother. Furious, he denounced her as indecent and declared that if she refused to be his wife, she would become his slave, responsible for all household chores. Soon after, Bai Ji informed Han Shuo that Qin Chuchu had arrived. Han Shuo, seizing the opportunity to provoke Qin Qianqian, ordered her to serve them. Qin Chuchu, noting that Han Shuo and Qin Qianqian were divorced, suggested sending Qin Qianqian to Rixing Mansion. Han Shuo readily agreed, coldly stating that Qin Qianqian was just a toy, and her location was irrelevant. He then deliberately acted intimate with Qin Chuchu, asking if she needed further proof of his indifference. When Qin Chuchu pressed him on when he would send Qin Qianqian away, Han Shuo replied that he preferred to keep his toy close. Qin Chuchu then proposed Han Shuo move to Xingzi Mansion for easier discussion of city affairs. Han Shuo countered, accusing her of treating him like a subservient Huayuan man. Qin Chuchu realized Han Shuo's entire performance was an act to upset Qin Qianqian, and, angered, she departed. Qin Qianqian, heartbroken, reflected on how much more pain Han Shuo must have felt when she presented him with the divorce letter. Zirue then informed Qin Qianqian that Han Shuo required her help changing clothes. She reluctantly complied. Han Shuo, feigning nonchalance, then demanded tea. Qin Qianqian brought him a cup, which he dramatically declared too hot. He threatened her, reminding her of his power over Huayuan City, her mother's confinement, and the little white bottles of poison, stating her life was entirely in his hands, and she would not leave Yueli Mansion. As a final torment, he ordered her to iron his clothes, warning her of sleepless nights if any wrinkles remained. Qin Qianqian, weary, complained about men imposing housework and inadvertently burned her hand while ironing. Meanwhile, Qin Chuchu confronted Han Shuo about placing his own guards around her mother's room, fearing he was growing soft towards Qin Qianqian. Han Shuo maintained it was a precaution against her potential betrayal, implying Qin Qianqian was not a sufficient hostage for her. Qin Chuchu pressed him about the abdication decree, lamenting that while documents could be forged, the city owner's seal could not, and without it, she could not truly rule. She then chillingly revealed her plan, to coerce the city owner into handing over the seal by progressively cutting off Qin Qianqian's fingers and sending them to her. She challenged Han Shuo to see if he could bear it, and reminded him of their alliance and his claim to the Blackwater mine. Han Shuo reassured her he would help her obtain the seal, but Qin Chuchu cautioned him against breaking their agreement, warning that she also commanded the city guards. Pei Hung, having learned of Qin Qianqian's burned hand from his servant, rushed to Yueli Mansion despite being told nothing could be done. He confronted Han Shuo, accusing him of mistreating Qin Qianqian, who had never truly been cherished. Han Shuo scoffed at the idea that mere housework constituted torture and feigned ignorance of Qin Qianqian's injury. Pei Hung reiterated that Qin Qianqian had burned her hand and declared his intention to take her away. Han Shuo, mocking Pei Hung's lack of military power, asserted that Pei Hung could not even protect himself, let alone Qin Qianqian. Han Shuo rushed into Qin Qianqian's room. From under the covers, she tearfully accused him of being a beast for trying to force intimacy while she was injured. Han Shuo was more preoccupied with why she hadn't told him about her injury, and why Pei Hung had known first. Qin Qianqian retorted that he didn't care about her anyway, and she hadn't told Pei Hung. Han Shuo's anger softened as he noted she had applied medicine and asked if it hurt. Qin Qianqian, wanting him to stay, begged him not to leave her alone. He initially offered to send Zirue, but ultimately stayed, taking the entire bed for himself and leaving Qin Qianqian to sleep on the hard floor. She complained about the discomfort, to which Han Shuo jokingly replied that hard is good for the waist. The next morning, it seemed they had reconciled. Han Shuo spoke of taking Qin Qianqian back to Xuanhu City as his wife once the city owners signed the abdication decree. However, Qin Qianqian refused to abandon her mother and Huayuan City, reminding him of its ancestral significance and her mother's devotion. She challenged his intentions regarding Qin Chuchu, who had saved him. Han Shuo dismissed Chen Chuchu's motives as self-serving, stating everyone would be his prisoner once her mother abdicated. He then accused Chun Qianqian of betraying him and having an unchanging, manipulative nature. Chun Qianqian retorted by reciting his character biography, accusing him of being a petty, ruthless man, and demanding he direct his anger at her, not her elderly, sick mother. Han Shuo, in a fit of jealousy, asked her a fatal question. If he and her mother fell into the water simultaneously, who would she save first? Chun Qianqian sarcastically questioned why a grown man couldn't swim and accused him of being jealous of her mother. Han Shuo then threatened to end her mother's life if Chun Qianqian disobeyed him. Declaring her intention to go to the city owner's mansion, Chun Qianqian stormed out. Han Shuo immediately ordered Zirue to confine her to the room. Zirue and Bai Ji then engaged in a comical argument about their master's quarrel, with Zirue lamenting Chun Qianqian's potential loss of inheritance and Bai Ji defending Han Shuo. Determined to save Chun Qianqian, Pei Heng resolved to seize the flower token and rally the city guards. He had already learned that Chen Chuchu, despite controlling the city guards, showed no intention of rescuing the city owner, and that discontent was brewing within the army against her rule. He reconnected with an old wet nurse, a former confidant of his mother, the late Minister of Defense, who confirmed Chen Chuchu's true nature and acknowledged that Pei Heng's mother would never have supported Chen Chuchu's betrayal of the city owner. The wet nurse agreed to assist Pei Heng in snatching the flower token while Chen Chuchu was inspecting it. Soon after, Chen Chuchu and Han Shuo were discussing the impending abdication decree when a guard reported that a thief had been caught trying to steal the flower token. Han Shuo departed, leaving Chen Chuchu to deal with the family matter. Pei Heng, having successfully obtained the flower token with the wet nurse's help, arrived at the city guards camp. Displaying the token, he commanded the city guards to switch their allegiance to Chun Qianqian, rescue the city owner, and confront Han Shuo in battle. The guards initially mocked him, refusing to take orders from a man in Huayuan City. Pei Heng asserted his authority, reminding them that the position of Minister of Defense had historically belonged to the Pei family, and that he possessed the courage of the city guards. He then executed the defiant commanding officer. Faced with a leaderless situation and Pei Heng, a legitimate Pei, holding the revered flower token, the remaining generals rallied behind him, pledging to rescue the city owner and Chun Qianqian. Meanwhile, Chun Qianqian, still confined, grew increasingly anxious, fearing she would be trapped until the story's end. The thought of her unyielding mother clashing with Han Shuo and Chen Chuchu terrified her. Realizing a violent confrontation was imminent, she resolved that she had to intervene and prevent it. Just as her resolve solidified, Pei Heng, leading the city guards, stormed into Yueli Mansion. He found Chun Qianqian, declaring he had come to rescue her. He reminded her of her past words, that he would become the first male Minister of Defense, a feat he had now accomplished. He apologized to her, explaining that while it wasn't her fault, he had to acquire power to truly protect her. If you love the story, subscribe for the next episode.